In 2023, there are 3,112 billionaires in the world. The billionaire perspective on life is quite different from anything you've ever experienced, and it'll definitely go against many of the things you believe. Here are 10 secrets only billionaires know. Number 1. You don't usually get to $1 billion and still own 100% of your business. Jeff Bezos owns 12.7% of Amazon. Elon Musk owns 13% of Tesla. Bernard Arnault owns 46% of LVMH. Warren Buffett owns 16% of Berkshire Hathaway. Larry Ellison owns 35% of Oracle. You get the idea. Most millionaires are share protective. They guard their shares like hawks without realizing they're actually keeping themselves from accelerating upwards in a shorter period of time. Here's a wake-up call. Owning 15% in a multi-billion-dollar pie is a lot more financially lucrative than owning 100% of your $3 million business. Number 2. Real estate will make you a millionaire. Private equity makes you a billionaire. The running joke around the ultra-wealthy is that real estate is the dumb millionaire's game. You can become a millionaire in real estate even if you don't have the brain power to do anything else. Ask any millionaire, and they'll tell you almost half, 35 to 50% of their net worth is tied up in real estate. Ask any billionaire, and you'll quickly realize business interests, private equity make up for over 70% of their net worth. The most productive way to increase your net worth is by owning a business, blow it up, and then use the funds to buy pieces of other businesses and do it all over again. Number 3. Do not use your own money. Use someone else's to make yourself rich. You can literally earn your way to $1 million. There are plenty of jobs out there where if you put your head down, put in the years, stack those checks, you'll get to 7 figures. Doctors, lawyers, tech engineers, they all earn a ton of money from their salaries. But you cannot get to $1 billion the same way. Your financial life unlocks vertically when you realize you can use other people's money to make yourself rich. Here's how most billionaires do it. Step 1. They go to friends, family, banks, and angel investors with an idea that they're willing to go all the way to make it happen. They need $100,000 to start the business and give off 20% of the company. This values the company at $500,000. Their 80% share of this new business is worth $400,000, and we've barely started. Step 2. They get some revenue and they build a team ready to scale. Let's say the company at this point is making $1 million in recurring revenue per year. Step 3. They then go to some external investors and sell 20% of the business at a $10 million valuation, meaning they now have $2 million in cash, and the remaining 60% of the company is now worth $6 million. They use that $2 million to go from $1 to $10 million in yearly recurring revenue. Step 5. You guessed it, you go to raise funds again, this time at a $100 million valuation. You sell 20% more of the business to get that $20 million. At this point, the 40% you're left with is worth $40 million. Step 6. You use the $20 million to develop a product for other companies and hire salespeople. This blows up your recurring revenue, and in 2 short years, your company is ready to go public. Step 7. You file for an IPO where the company floats 10% of its shares on the public market at a $10 billion valuation. You and everyone that's invested in your company along the way is now a billionaire. At every stage of this journey, you used other people's money to scale up, to hire people, to develop products, to get new sales. And with every one of those moves, the valuation went up. Now, before you call out what we just told you, know that this is the simplified model UiPath has used to IPO at a $35 billion valuation. And we were fortunate enough to learn from the founder along the way. Number 4. Everything is a buy low, sell high equation, only the scale differs. Some billionaires trade in commodities such as coffee, metals, and others trade in shipping those commodities where the cost of gas, people, and transport is lower than what others are willing to pay you to get it delivered. Others trade in risk. Tech and media companies trade in attention, and eyeballs buy them low, sell them high, use the profit to do it larger over and over again. Once you understand that every business is in the buy low, sell high business, the way you look at yours starts to change. There are 2 important things to optimize if you want to be rich. 1, what your markup is, And 2, what your scale is, meaning the number of transactions you're able to do. Amazon, as an e-commerce store, has tiny margins but a lot of transactions. Tesla has incredible margins and a decent number of transactions. A business grows when one of 3 situations occurs. 1, you charge more and maintain the same number of transactions. Artists use this model. 2, you charge the same but increase the number of customers, which is the strategy fast food chains use when opening up new locations. And 3, you charge more while increasing the number of transactions. Luxury brands use this strategy, which actually made Bernard Arnault the richest man in the world. The secret most billionaires know is that once you move into a different bracket of scale, you have incredible negotiating power on how low you can buy. Only billionaires know that the profit is made at the point of purchase, not the point of sale. Number 5. Art is a preferred store of value that can easily be moved around. When you're that rich, most of your money is locked up in stocks, other businesses, or hard-to-move assets. You don't want to keep it in cash because, at that scale, cash is losing 5 to 10% of its value year over year due to inflation. So where do high net worth individuals turn to? Art. Yep, they buy art in bulk, lease it off to museums around the world, or seal it off in shipping containers and use it as a bargaining chip. It's a lot easier to move $500 million in art than $500 million in gold or silver. Most people don't realize that blue-chip art is one of the most profitable investments out there. Fine art is often referred to as the billionaire asset for a good reason. Actually, blue-chip art not only performs incredibly well in high-inflation environments like the one we're in right now, but it's also traditionally consistently outperformed the S&P 500. According to a recent groundbreaking study from UBS, 62% of ultra-high net worth investors surveyed allocate a shocking 30 or more of their investment portfolios into art and collectibles. Now we know what you're thinking. Damn, these ultra-rich individuals are getting an opportunity to invest in ways that average people just can't, because who has the money to buy a $5 or $50 million painting? Well, that's where our friends at Masterworks come in. Masterworks is a platform that allows everyday people to invest in multi-million-dollar paintings for just a fraction of the price. Instead of buying the entire painting, you can invest in shares of it. And once that painting is sold, the profits are split amongst the share owners. Number 6. Stocks won't get you to $1 billion, and neither will luck. Stocks work well when you've got a large time horizon and a ton of money to start with. Back in the 80s and 90s, there was this trend of financial advice where they said if you simply invested $5 every day in the stock market, starting when you were 20 years old and kept doing it until you were 65, you would be a millionaire. And like, oh yes, okay, we get it, the math checks out. But the market is also evolving, and so are costs. These financial models tell a fancy tale that's all surface, and we think they do more harm than good. And here's what we mean by that. Warren Buffett paid $31,500 for his house back in 1958. Adjusted for inflation and market value, that same house costs around $877,000 in today's dollars. 60 years later, that house costs 28.3 times more. It's the same house, nice and old, didn't grow any new bedrooms. Take a moment to process this. The house, just by doing nothing, has almost matched the performance of professional investors. If you keep saving the $5 a day, by the time you get to your $1 million retirement, $1 million will barely buy you anything. It's the same with luck. You might luck your way into becoming a millionaire, but going from that million to $1 billion is a whole different ballgame. Number 7. Every new billionaire turns other millionaires into billionaires. Remember the use other people's money example? Well, every newly minted billionaire brings with them those who believe in their vision enough to open up their wallets in the early days. Peter Thiel was the first outside investor to back Facebook. He invested $500,000 in exchange for 10.2% of the company. When Facebook IPO'd, he sold 2/3 of his shares for $628 million after investing $500,000. Friend of the channel, Gary Tan, the current CEO of Y Combinator, was the first investor in Coinbase in 2013. That initial investment of only $300,000 ended up being worth $2.4 billion. Go anywhere in Silicon Valley and these types of stories always pop up. Make your money first, and then use it to back promising businesses. One of them might just be the next Airbnb. Number 8. Less than 5% of their worth is liquid. Average people think the rich are hoarding resources. When they say billionaires, they picture Scrooge McDuck jumping into a vault filled with gold coins. But in reality, almost all of them are paper billionaires, meaning shares they own in companies are worth in excess of $1 billion on paper. The assets are worth as much. Usually, billionaires keep less than 5% of their worth liquid, and if they do need money, they do not sell their assets. Instead, they go to banks, show them the paper that says they're worth X amount, and then use that as collateral for low-interest loans. The bank provides them with a line of credit, and they go off to buy even more income-generating assets. When Elon bought Twitter, he didn't actually sell his shares in Tesla or SpaceX in order to come up with that money. The bank gave him the funds to buy it. Here's something most billionaires know. You do not pay tax on debt, so they would rather borrow that money using their assets as collateral. Number 9. The real money is made in a crisis. Billionaires look at the world differently than most people. Poor people look at life in terms of days, the middle class in terms of months, the upper class in terms of quarters, the rich in terms of years, and the super rich in terms of decades. People made fun of Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway for underperforming for the past 10 years and critiqued his large cash position, losing its value due to inflation. But Warren and Munger were just sitting on cash, waiting. They were okay with losing 1 to 3% per year because when this recession hit, they were able to purchase companies at 50 to 75% discounts. For billionaires, recessions are like the Black Friday event of the decade. Everything you really want is on sale, and that's one of their secrets. It's not the day-to-day you focus on. Instead, you make 2 to 3 plays per decade, which are strategic for growth. Number 10. They all had and still have experts minimizing risk and increasing returns. There's no such thing as a self-made billionaire, at least not in the way that people think about them. In order for you to have the time and mental space to focus on exponential growth, you need to know that almost everything else is taken care of. You find great accounting firms to mitigate all financial risk. You find great legal firms to mitigate all liabilities. Great managers and CEOs steadily take the company to the next level. Along the way, you have to rely and trust other people's expertise to get you to the next level. All of these billionaires surround themselves with experts who can point out exactly the inflection points and how to position yourself for them. These people are called executive coaches, and every big CEO has a couple of them on council. At this level, they cost between a few $100,000 to a couple of $1 million per year. Do you enjoy watching top 10 videos? I've made a video about the top 10 most expensive Pokemon cards in the world.